Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot of people adding today. Welcome, and we're really happy to see everybody here on a Friday. Happy Friday, yay. Welcome to Captioning Strategies and Options. My name is Valerie Senior, and together with Brandon, we will be co-hosting this webinar for CVC. I'm pleased to introduce to you our wonderful facilitator, Karen Crozer. Karen Crozer, PhD, is an associate professor of English at Los Angeles Mission College, where she also serves as chair. During the pandemic, Dr. Crozer served as a distance education specialist for the Los Angeles Community College District, leading webinars on accessibility, active learning in Zoom, and OER rubric. Dr. Crozer is currently the main LACCD facilitator for the 4-week course, Creating Accessible Course Content, which she has led 10 times. In addition, she serves as an LACCD lead trainer for the 3-week course called Introduction to Asynchronous Teaching in Zoom, which she has facilitated 8 times. She also conducts training throughout the district on artificial intelligence in higher education. Known for her student supportive strategies, Dr. Crozer was voted Faculty of the Year by CalWORKs students at her college in spring of 2020. She is passionate about leveling the playing field for students with disabilities and has published a short book called Captions Made Easy to help faculty create ADA-compliant video captions. During today's webinar, we will be linking a survey for you to provide feedback. We'll be dropping a link in the chat every 30 minutes and then every 15 minutes after that. We ask that you fill this out to let us know how we did, and so we can create programming that is more tailored to the needs of our system moving forward. Lastly, @ONE offers badges as proof of completion normally, but we do not provide a badge for attending this webinar. If your institution requires proof of attendance for flex credit or professional advancement, please remain until the end of the webinar, complete a survey, and request a copy of your responses to be sent to you through the Google form. You can use that confirmation as proof of attendance. Without further ado, I will introduce Dr. Crozer.
Welcome, everyone. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy April on a Friday, sorry, to be here and discuss something that's really important to me and is also important to you if you're here, which is how we can reach all of our students with our videos. So I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation. Feel free along the way if you want to put questions into the chat to do so. I might not see them right away, but when I do, I'll try to take breaks and answer them. And in addition, if you have strategies that you've used that you want to share with others that are here, feel free to put that in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and open my slideshow, so give me just a moment here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So thank you so much for that introduction. This webinar is called Captioning Strategies and Options. You got my brief bio, but I work at LA Mission College as the chair of English Comm Studies and Journalism, and I'm an associate professor of English. Just as a brief icebreaker and kind of loosen us all up, I'd like to know, would you rather have unlimited free food at any restaurant for the rest of your life or have unlimited free flights anywhere for the rest of your life? So go ahead and tell me in the chat. It seems like we're pretty split right now. The free flights are not on Spirit. I also thought I should clarify that the free flights can be any class, so you don't have to fly economy. Okay, I think we're pretty split. I'm definitely tempted by both of those. I think I might lean towards the flights though, and the free food on the plane. Yes, thank you, Eric. Oh, Evan says unlimited free flights in a chariot pulled by carbon-free unicorns. That's a great idea. Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Love the sense of humor. A few brief goals for this webinar. First, I'm hoping to make sure you understand the importance of captioned multimedia content. We want to identify some of the limitations of auto-generated captions. We're going to talk about how to apply some hands-on strategies for creating the correct captions. And in the last part of our webinar, I'm going to teach you some tricks that can use ChatGPT to speed up your workflow. So that's where we're headed. I'm going to try to be conscious of speaking a little bit slower than I normally do because we're working with interpreters. Thank you so much to our interpreters for helping. If you find I'm talking too fast, anyone, feel free to let me know in the chat. Once I see it, I will try to slow down. Thanks. So I thought an important place to start would be why caption at all. Some of you are probably coming into this training with a vast accessibility background. You've studied it. You understand why this is important. But there might be others who haven't really thought or figured out why it's so crucial. So I just want to take a moment to lay that foundation of why this matters. So let's start with why video. And I think this one, any of us who have taught have probably realized that video can be very engaging for our students. When it's done well, it is engaging multiple parts of the brain, the audio part, the visual part. It's a great way to show students complex ideas. It also appeals to a lot of students who are used to already watching YouTube, TikTok, or other video websites. So we want video in our toolkit as one of the various things we can use to teach material. So that's why video, which you're probably already familiar with. But why captioning? So we need our content to be accessible to everyone. Part of that's the law, obviously, but from a sort of heart or passion place, it's also a way to make sure no student is left behind, to make sure that you're really including everyone. And a lot of times when we talk about captions, we start by thinking of students who are hard of hearing or deaf, but captions also help our other students. For instance, a lot of non-native English speakers will turn on captions to enhance their comprehension of the topic. And then there is someone like me. I love captions because it helps me reinforce what I'm learning. I'm a visual learner. I like to read the content as I watch it. So there's a lot of your students who may be turning on captions just to sort of enhance their learning. So throughout this webinar, we're going to talk about how to correct captions, and certain elements may take time, But the upside is that you're providing a better learning experience for all of your students. So one of the things that we'll just briefly talk about is POUR stands for an acronym of some of the elements that accessible content needs to have. But two that we're going to focus on just briefly here are the P and the U. Is the video perceivable? And is it understandable? Your automatic thought might be, well, of course it's perceivable and understandable. But we need to consider every student in every type of circumstance to make sure that this is really true with our videos. We'll get a little bit more into this later in the webinar, but when we create accessible videos, we want our scripts, if we do write scripts, to be clear. We want to make sure our visuals are understandable. We want the audio to be clear. And we want the video to have accurate captions. Those are just a few of the things that are going to make our videos perceivable and understandable to everyone. So another way of thinking about this is that all video needs visual and audio equivalents. So if you think about it, anything that you see on the screen that is important to learning, there needs to be an equivalent for a student who might be low vision or blind. For any audio that is important to learning, there should be an equivalent for a student who might be deaf or hard of hearing. So the law does mandate that all of our instructional material needs to be perceivable. And the idea is that every student, regardless of situation, disability, etc., has the same opportunity to understand what we're presenting in our classes. Oh, I might need to reshare to get the sound. Let me see if I can do that one minute. I'm going to show you an example of a video that you might not think of immediately as being problematic. So actually, let me just close this stop screen sharing for a minute and reshare with audio. So I help lead, as you heard, the Creating Accessible Content class at LACCD, which is my district, Los Angeles Community College District. And that is, of course, based on the template from CVC at 1. So you may have seen this if you've taken that course. But this is one of the examples that they show, which I think is a great one, of why there can sometimes be issues. So I'm going to turn on this video. And if you can, for a few seconds of the video, close your eyes and just listen. So I'll stop there. I do find this to be a very powerful PSA, but as you might have noticed, if you closed your eyes, if you had an issue with vision, you wouldn't have been able to read any of the text that went along with the music and the images. So if this video didn't have closed captions, those words would not be perceivable to someone who has vision issues or disability impairment. Sorry. Okay. So Section 508 is one of the legal mandates we have that helps guide this discussion. Of course, one of our motivators is always to not break the law, right? We don't want to do that. But besides that, I encourage you to dig deeper and think about how really following these strategies, these laws, can lead to better outcomes and understanding for all of your students. So you can see here that Section 508 reads, all training and informational video and multimedia productions which support the agency's mission, regardless of format, that contains speech or other audio information necessary for the comprehension of the content shall be open or closed captioned. Now, if you don't know the difference, we'll talk about it in just a moment, but it is crucial that the videos that you have in your online classes and also in your face-to-face, but obviously we're focusing on online classes right now, they need to be properly captioned, regardless of whether you have a hearing impaired student in your class. So the law doesn't say add captions if you have a student who is deaf. They say you have to have proper captions regardless. So if in case anyone didn't know that, make sure you understand we are all required to have this at all times in our online classes. And this is important, like I said, not just because it's a legal requirement, but also because video issues affect all of our students. So when we think about cognitive load and what our brains are going through when we absorb new information, if you have poor audio or poor visual quality, that can increase cognitive load on our students. Because now they're squinting, trying to see what's happening, or trying to turn up the volume and listen really close. And all of those things are distracting the brain from just learning the information. So similarly, the audio should be clear with background noises minimized. So things like volume going up and down, words that we can't hear, startling background noises, all those things are going to distract our students' brains from the actual content. Similarly, if we're poorly lit and it's really hard to see us, that can be a distraction for the brain. A lot of us teach really complex ideas to our students. So we want the cognitive load, the heavy lifting of the brain, to be on absorbing the content, not on these other things like, what is she saying? What, I can't see her, right? We don't want the brain wasting energy on those things. We want their brains as much as possible focused on absorbing the content. And I wanted to share this because I thought this was powerful, that in a recent survey, 3Play Media discovered that 75% of students use captions and over a third of students use captions frequently. And in case you were wondering why, here are some of the common reasons. Of course, we initially think of they could be deaf or hard of hearing. And yes, that is a reason. But they also could be listening or viewing in a public space where they can't turn up the volume. They might be listening or viewing at work while sitting at a desk and they can't have the volume up. Or they might be struggling to understand the content and they turn on the captions to help with studying. That's what I personally do as an English professor. I love reading. And when I hear something and I read it, it really sort of helps me absorb it. I also would encourage you to think about students who may be homeless or in housing with a lot of people. So in my district, Los Angeles Community College, the last survey that I saw estimated that 1 out of 5 of our students are homeless. That is huge, 20%. So when you think of students who might be homeless, think about that they might be in a homeless shelter with a lot of people where they cannot turn up the volume, or they might be in their car and turning up the volume is going to drain their battery. So all of these things for closed captions can be reasons that they help students, besides those, of course, who are deaf and hard of hearing, for which it is crucial, but it's going to help a lot of our other students as well. Okay, so let's move to some of the basic things we're going to need to understand about closed captions. So it is true that there are challenges. I'm not going to say that it's the easiest thing in the world or the quickest thing in the world, but I do think it's a myth that it's too time consuming and expensive to do captions. I think there are ways to speed up the process, some of which we'll talk about in this webinar. And there are ways that we can get support that are free or covered by the state or inexpensive. Another problem that we do face is that there are many auto-generated captions out there, and a lot of them are inaccurate and they lack context. And sometimes instructors think that those are legally compliant when they aren't. So it can be a challenge to help everyone understand that auto-generated captions are not compliant with the law. And finally, another challenge is balancing quality with efficiency. We want to do a good job, but we need to be efficient in our captions as well. So there definitely are challenges, but we're going to try to come up with some possible solutions in this webinar. So a few moments ago, we read from section 508 that you could use open or closed captions. So I want to briefly go over what the difference is. Closed captions are the most common. They're the kind that when you're watching something on YouTube or Netflix and you hit CC, it's usually a button that says CC for closed captions. It'll turn on the captions. And then if you click it again, they'll turn off, right? And this can, of course, help those with a hearing impairment, but many of us turn them on for other reasons as well. Open captions are ones that are actually burned in. In other words, you can't turn them off. They're on at all times. So closed captions, I can turn on and off. Open captions, burned in, cannot be removed. While technically both satisfy 508, closed captions are preferred. And the reason is, even though many learners benefit from captions, if you give them closed captions, they can turn the captions off if that's their preference. So while many students may enjoy turning on captions, others might find it distracting. So if you use closed captions, you're satisfying or helping both types of students. They can turn it on if it helps them. They can turn it off if they find it distracting. So out of those two options, I would recommend closed captions. Another question I sometimes get is, are transcripts enough? And by transcript, I mean just like a text block of everything that's said in the video. And legally, there's only one time that transcripts are acceptable, and that's when it's truly an audio only recording. So if you're sharing a podcast with your students, there's no video showing. That needs to be synchronized to the text. So a transcript is completely acceptable in that case. However, if there is video being shown, the law does expect you to synchronize your text to the video. So in that case, a transcript would not be enough legally. If video is being displayed more than just audio, a transcript is not enough. That said, if you include closed captions and a transcript, that can be very helpful to students, because that way not only are they seeing it on screen, but they can use the transcript as a study guide. So I don't want to discourage you from using transcripts, but just understand if there's a video, they are not compliant with the law if you only provide that. They're an option. You have to provide closed captions. So, legal requirements for captions. One of the big questions I get is, well, why are auto-generated captions an issue? And this first bullet is really why, that our captions should be 99% accurate. And that not only includes the words being correct, it also includes things like grammar and punctuation. So that means a capital letter at the beginning of sentences, ending punctuation at the end. And when you consider who captions help, this might make a little more sense to you. Let's imagine for a moment that I'm an English learner who is trying to learn English, and that's why I'm turning on the captions. It will be very helpful for me to see proper grammar and punctuation in the captions, because then that's reinforcing that learning for me. Another thing we need to think about is how the captions display. It should be synchronously with the audio, so not displaying before it's said or after, and you don't want them to be too fast or too slow, because there needs to be time for the listener slash viewer to read them or hear them. Captions should include every spoken word. If there's opening music and intentional background noises, those should be captioned. For instance, if someone in my house just drops something and it has nothing to do with what I'm saying, I don't need to caption thud. But if I'm doing, let's say, a video where I'm trying to show like a sketch where someone is dropping something and that's part of the humor, the moment, then I should caption that thud noise. So think about those noises that are intentional and part of the learning, and those should be noted as well. Another thing to think about is that you don't want the captions placed in a way that obscures other information. And in most video players, it will be displayed at the bottom of the screen automatically, and that should be fine. Okay, auto-generated captions. So these are everywhere now. And on the one hand, they are great because they have sped up the captioning process. So if you've never heard of auto-generated captions before, basically machine learning is listening to the audio and trying to translate it into text. So it's technology, it's not a human, it's just listening to the sounds and spitting out text. So on the one hand, that really speeds up the captioning process, because at least I have something that's maybe 80% right. But where there's a little bit of a problem is that many people now think that auto-generated captions are, enough for students or people with disabilities, when they're not. Auto-generated captions must be corrected to be closed captions. Remember on a previous slide how we talked about how our captions need to be 99% correct. And no machine learning can get that close. So for those reasons, auto-generated captions are not going to be enough for us to show a video in our online class without fixing them. So here are some examples of common errors I see in auto-generated captions. So like I mentioned before, there's usually no ending punctuation at the end of a sentence. There's usually sentences that don't start with capital letters. Complex terms or words are often misspelled because the machine learning doesn't recognize them. Or sometimes it will replace one word for a completely different word. And that's because the program can't actually hear the speaker correctly. So just for fun, I wanted to give you an example of an auto-generated caption fail. These YouTubers have a whole series of videos where they explore why auto-generated captions just don't work and how inaccurate they are. So you'll hear them introduce it, but basically they took audio of themselves singing carols, Christmas carols, and then had YouTube provide auto-generated captions. Then they took those auto-generated captions and actually sang them to people. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I'm going to give you just a taste so you can see how often the words are getting interpreted incorrectly.
Time for another caption fail video.
This is when we have a little fun with the YouTube closed caption tool, which generates automatic transcriptions for what it thinks is being said in a video.
This time we sang some Christmas carols, then we uploaded those and let YouTube interpret them. Then we took the interpretation and made those the new lyrics to the old Christmas carols.
And now we're gonna sing them for you.
Yeah, but we probably shouldn't do it here.
Or in these clothes.
We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Priest, mysterious, your merry prisoners, and a Happy New Year. To try it is we, managers came to try, to use for wrestlers set up that the new year. Although their outside is frightful, but the pirates so delightful, insisted no place to go. There is no that is now, let us know. Just match rusting envelope inside.
Jet for us nipping at your end.
What into
Do sundial clown and folks, Mister that like this too.
Read off the rent those reindeer, and there's anything that will.
And if you ever saw annually in St. Louis,
The whole flute of the father of sisters.
of Lola la 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 la,
Not ease into these are the follow-up.
bottle of laugh, laugh la la la.
Done we now are getting a parallel.
Fa la 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 well, troll the antidote arterial file I love that Lila while what?
Okay. Yes, you should be able to get the YouTube link from the presentation. It's linked in there. So I feel like this is a kind of fun example of why auto captions are often an issue, right? So you can see that YouTube was clearly making tons of mistakes so that it became impossible to understand the original intent of the carols. And I know for me, sometimes I'm watching videos, on TikTok or YouTube, and I turn them on just for my own viewing. And I find it really distracting when the captions are completely wrong. So hopefully that's kind of a demonstration of why that's a problem. Oh, good, Jonathan. Thank you for sharing the link. I appreciate that.
Obama
Oh,
House
sorry.
of
Oh, no.
Time for another caption.
Didn't mean to play that again. Sorry about that. Okay. So YouTube is full of auto-generated captions. And if you want to see this for yourself, all you need to do is open up a tab in your browser, go to YouTube and search for any topic under the sun. And what you're going to do is on the YouTube bar, so hopefully you can see this one with an arrow going to the CC, that's what you want to click. When you click CC, if what comes up is English, parentheses, auto-generated, that means no human has ever corrected these captions. What you are seeing is completely machine learning, listening to audio, spitting out text. So anytime you see a video, you click CC, up pops English auto-generated. These videos are not compliant with the law. They should not appear in your online class for any reason. You could potentially be held legally responsible for posting videos like this in your classes. And it is that serious because I want you to do this for inclusivity reasons so that you can reach all your students. But I know that that's not always motivating enough for everyone. So if that doesn't motivate you, I recommend you to remember that you could potentially be subject to a lawsuit if you are including videos like this in your class. So that is why it is so crucial that we start checking our videos and correcting them. There was recently, I guess it was maybe this past spring, so a year ago, the Office of Civil Rights sent out a Dear Colleague letter, and they were talking about the number of times they have gotten complaints about things like videos not being properly captioned, and in the thousands that they're now investigating. And so I don't want to scare you because no one's perfect, and what we're trying to do is move in the right direction. But what my DSPS office has always said is the Office of Civil Rights wants to see that you are moving forward in accessibility. So if you are making efforts, but once in a while you make a mistake, that's probably okay if you keep moving towards accessibility. But then on the other hand, if you're the professor who says, I don't get closed captioning, it's too long, I'm not going to even try on any of my videos, I'm not going to try to learn it, that's the type of situation that's going to be a big issue for the Office of Civil Rights. So I'm not trying to scare you and say you have to be perfect 100% of the time, but all of us need to be moving forward. And I know when I've had these discussions at my campus, sometimes people say, well, I don't want to learn about these things because then I'm responsible to do it. And what I always say to them is, you're already responsible. You know, whether or not you've taken the time to learn about, Section 508 or Americans with Disability Act, it doesn't matter in the eyes of the law. You're still responsible to put accessible content in your classes. You know, it's like if I get pulled over for a speed limit and I try to say, well, I didn't know there were speed limits. Well, I'm still responsible to go the speed limit. It's still a crime to go above it. So even though it may feel a little heavy-handed to say this, I think it's important. We are responsible to do this. We have to do this, and we legally protect ourselves when we do this. So it takes time, and it's incremental learning, incremental changes. Keep on that path where you're making the changes, you're doing the learning, and you should be fine. But please, if you're here, you're already not putting your head in the sand, which is great. But also encourage your colleagues. You're not protected by not knowing this. You have to know this, and you have to do this. So great. Now I'm just looking a little bit here at the notes. And yes, there is a way to change the captions on a YouTube video if it's yours. And I'll give you some tips if it's not yours later. Auto-translated bloopers, yes. Oh, there's so many. One of the schools you work for takes care of the closed captioning. That's amazing. Every school should do that. I hope one day we get there. And yes, Amara is a great resource for when it's a video that you do not own, because then it's a little more complicated to change the captions. So great. Thank you for sharing all those. And we'll get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of some of those ideas shortly. Okay, so just to reiterate, auto-generated captions violate the law. Not only do they violate the law, which could leave you open to a lawsuit, and let me just tell you, my district, Los Angeles Community College District, is the largest community college district in the US, and we have been sued and lost multiple times for not being compliant with the law about accessibility. It's not something I'm proud of, but I think it's important to put out there that we're not immune. Our districts are not immune. Our colleges are not immune. So beyond the fact that it's violating the law to use auto-generated captions, it also is probably doing other things that you don't want. For instance, there are likely to be errors on the very vocabulary and names that you most want your students to get right. Because auto-generated captions usually butcher weird technical jargon words and names of people. And usually those are things we desperately need our students to get right. And like I said before, not only is it, completely leaving our hearing impaired or deaf students in the dust by not giving them the same opportunities to learn the material, but it's also harming our students who are using captions to try to better understand the material. So with that in mind, let's start by talking a little bit about how we can find properly captioned videos. Then we'll move to how we can make our own properly captioned videos. So one of the easiest things you can do is use websites for videos that reliably caption correctly. So I have a list here that they are committed to always having closed captions when they post videos. So TED.com is an example. There's tons of TED Talks on everything under the sun. Just do not use TED Talks from YouTube without checking them. YouTube TED Talks are often not properly captioned, but anything you find on TED.com should be. You should still check, but they are reliable about that. Another example, and these are linked in my presentation. Hopefully you can get a copy at the end or go back to sort of the login page to get it. The History Channel, Khan Academy, National Geographic Education, Discovery Education, PBS Learning Media, and Edutopia. So this is just to list a few. So if I'm looking for a video on a video on a topic is what I mean to say. These are some great places to start looking for engaging, well-captioned videos, because I know that these websites have committed to putting in the time for closed captions. This is a great place to start. Another resource is to ask your community college library. So some colleges will have streaming video collections that have closed captions, such as films on demand. So I recommend sending an email to one of your librarians or walking over and asking, do you have any video repositories that have closed caption? That can be another resource. We can still use YouTube videos, but we really need to take multiple steps to ensure that they are properly captioned. So I'm going to walk you through 3 steps that I do every time before I watch the entire video for errors. So I'll show you in a moment what each of these means. I do the speedy auto-generated check first. Then I use the subtitles filter. Then I do the 20 to 30 second check. After I do all of those, then I'll take the time to watch the entire video, because that's how I'm going to know for certain that it's 99% accurate. Let me back up and do these one by one. The speedy auto-generated check, that's what I call it, is what we talked about a minute ago. You're in YouTube, you hit CC, what pops up? If you see English auto-generated, it's not compliant. So that's the speedy check. If English auto-generated pops up, you don't need to do the other checks. You know, right off the bat, within 1 to 2 seconds, it's not proper closed captions. So that's the fastest. The second one that you can do is to search YouTube and filter by subtitles/CC. So when you're in YouTube, you're going to enter your keywords into the search bar and hit search. Then you might have to look kind of closely because it can be small. There's generally a little gray button that says filters with an image of little sliders on it. You want to hit that, and under features, you want to click subtitles/CC. What this is going to do is it's going to filter out everything with auto-generated captions. This is a really good step because we're going to get rid of a lot of the videos that are not compliant. You might be asking yourself, well, isn't that enough? And the answer is no, because what it does is it gets rid of auto-generated captions, but it doesn't, no machine or filter is able to check if captions are correct. It's not going to be able to know if someone fixed them correctly. So what sometimes happens is someone fixes auto-generated captions, but they still make a ton of mistakes. And they make more than 1% of mistakes. And remember, our standard is 99% accurate. So what I do as my third step is I watch 20 to 30 seconds of the video. And what I look for are sort of common flags that someone is making a lot of mistakes. So in that 20, 30 seconds, I look for capital letters that might be missing at the beginning of each sentence. I might look for periods and punctuation that are missing at the end. Or I might look, and I should say not or, and I would look for words that have been replaced with the wrong word. So if I do that 20 to 30 second check, and there are a lot, more than 1% errors, then that video is not compliant. And I'm not going to invest the time to watch the entire video. I already know this is not worth exploring more unless I want to try to add my own captions. So those are the 3 things that I would recommend doing that are sort of the fast checks to get rid of a lot of the biggest offenders on YouTube. So click CC. Does that auto-generated pop up? Filter by subtitles/CC. Watch 20 to 30 seconds and then look for no capital letters, no punctuation, words incorrect. These are going to be instant flags that this video is not going to work without further fixing, basically. And then after that, actually, let me go back here for a minute. After that, if a video's passed all of those and I like it, then I will watch the video to make sure it's 99% accurate. And you can speed up. Hopefully most of you have used this feature, but on YouTube, you can speed up or slow down a video. So for me, I sometimes like to speed it up a little bit. Of course, you want to make sure that the timing is still correct, but that kind of helps me watch the video for errors after I've done these 3 initial checks on YouTube. One other thing that I just want to address that's sort of a common misconception. So hopefully many of you know about these, but some of you might not. In Canvas, there is an accessibility checker built in to the rich content editor. I call him the Da Vinci man because it looks like a man in a circle. And it is going to check for some types of accessibility. However, Canvas Accessibility Checker is not human. It cannot understand your video and whether captions are correct. Similarly, you might have access to Pope Tech. It's usually a P button that you can have check your page for compliance. Again, Pope Tech cannot check a video for proper captions. That is a uniquely human task. Only a human is going to be able to understand that. So sometimes someone will say, well, I did the accessibility check with the YouTube video and the accessibility checker said it was okay. But the accessibility checker can't check for captions. It's checking for other things like headings and descriptive links. So do not tell yourself that if that Pope Tech or the accessibility Canvas checker can check your video. It can't. You have to do it. That's why I'm trying to give you some strategies today. Another common thing that I hear from faculty at my school is, my favorite video isn't captioned. So you start learning about accessibility, you're reviewing your class, suddenly you realize your favorite video of all time is not properly captioned. The one that you feel just perfectly described something that was hard for students to understand. Yes, it's a bummer, but there are a couple things that you can do, some of which have been brought up in the chat, which is great. So the first thing is to look for a similar video that has closed captioning. Of course, some of us have very niche fields where that might be difficult, but I'll use myself as an example. I'm an English professor. So if I look for a video on, say, comma splices, there's hundreds out there. So a lot of times, let's say my favorite comma splice video isn't captioned properly. I can find a similar one out there that is. So that's one option. Another option that sometimes works for me is to message the YouTube creator. Whether they respond or do anything about it, we have no control over. But what I usually say is, hey, I love your video. I want to show it to my students, but it's not captioned. Legally, I can't show it. Would you consider fixing it? Now, some people will completely ignore that, but there are people who will respond and try to caption it. Why? Because clicks from your students means more views, right? And that's something that they want. So some people will completely ignore you, may not even know what you're talking about. Other people will actually respond and provide correct captions. So there's no problems with reaching out to them. You know what? I'll stop and after we get through the slide, I'll stop and try to go through Q&A and any of the chat questions. And yes, we will have a Q&A at the end as well, but I'll try to just go through what we have so far. There is a sort of workaround for someone else's video where you can add captions yourself and you add them as another language. It's kind of like English, you can have to label it English, but something else, sort of like how there's English US, English UK. You could try to say English parentheses caption. And I've linked to a video that shows you how to do it in case you're interested in that. And another one that someone brought up in the chat is Amara, which I kind of describe as crowdsourcing your captions. But you can add captions yourself. Sometimes other people have already done it too, or started the work, which is great. And then Amara creates an overlay on the YouTube video that you can share. Okay, so let me stop sharing for a minute so that I can make sure that I am seeing our questions here. So let me scroll back up. Does Section 508 allow captions in foreign languages that do not use the Roman alphabet? That might be a little beyond my area of expertise. Brandon or Valerie, do you have any input on that one?
Val, do you know anything about that one?
No, I have on occasion requested captioning companies to do captions in other languages, but not specifically that scenario. I'm not really sure.
That's a great question, but I'll have to look into that one more. So my videos are closed caption, but how does this come into play when you are teaching a language and you're testing for comprehension? So my understanding is that you would translate it into whatever language is being spoken on the video. So that's my understanding for that one. Are you still liable if you use an impromptu video to help with a lecture point? So I'm not a lawyer, so let me go ahead and put that out there. But my understanding is that we are supposed to, even in our face-to-face classes, use videos with captions and turn on the captions. But it might be a good question for your DSPS office or whatever that office is called on your campus. Okay, just scrolling. So, okay, so Joy was saying, you know, I'm not an English teacher, so I might have missed a comma or two or words not being capitalized. So I always think of accessibility and compliance as a journey where you're trying to get closer and closer to reaching everyone. So we do make mistakes along the way. The things that I thought were compliant 4 years ago when I was really trying, I'm realizing now that I was making mistakes, but I continue to try to improve. So I think that's all that any of us can do is the more you learn about it, the better you get. And if you're not great with catching every comma and things like that, you may be able to use something like ChatGPT or Grammarly to help you sort of review any captioning that you're doing on your end. So I wouldn't necessarily say to worry, but I would say continue to just move on that journey to make it better and better. Okay, so Jennifer shared she loved Adobe Premium Pro for captioning. Great. How much are we as instructors allowed to use videos from sites such as Khan Academy? So again, not a legal expert, but my understanding is that we can use any video that's properly captioned where there's not copyright infringement, right? So when you're embedding a video from YouTube or TED.com, there's going to pop up for students if they want to view it, information about the creator, things like that. So when it comes to embedding videos from other places, I think you're pretty safe as long as they're properly captioned. Where I can sometimes see it be an issue is if somebody, you know, copies a video illegally, maybe like and then tries to upload it as their own video into Canvas Studio or Canvas, because then there's some copyright issues and the original creator isn't getting the clicks and the information from those clicks. So, but I think if you're embedding from a source that's intended to be public and the captions are proper, and it's of course appropriate, that you should be fine. Okay. Oh, so someone's saying Khan Academy still has errors. Yeah. And that's why it's always good to do a manual check. Okay. Let's see. Can you put the link in the chat? Yes, I can try to do that to add captions to existing videos made by other people. So this is kind of a complex one. what I've heard is that Amara is kind of in a little bit of a gray space with the overlay, but that it is not a huge problem because the video itself is still getting the clicks. If you were putting the video into your own like canvas and then captioning it, I feel like you're in a stickier area because now the creator isn't getting clicks anymore. So I would look for options that are either an overlay or you adding a caption as another language to YouTube. Okay. Yeah, so Brandon said it might be okay as an impromptu announcement, and it might. I mean, I think if you're really trying almost all the time, and then it just happens that the video, you know, that you show on this fly doesn't have it. I think that's probably not the type of thing that the Office of Civil Rights is going after. You can yeah, so with Amara, it's like an overlay that goes over the YouTube video. Okay, yes, fair use principle. Okay, good. Yes, we're about to get into the how to edit your own captions in YouTube. Okay, yes, and we're going to talk about it, the Chat GPT as well. So the filter caption CC. So yes, using the filter for subtitles CC in YouTube will get rid of all auto-generated captions. It just can't check to make sure that someone who fixed them did them correctly. So sometimes it means a human has touched them, but it doesn't tell you for certain that the human did it correctly. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me try to copy this link and then I'll go to the Q&A quickly here and then we'll move on. So I'm going to try to put in some links for adding another language. And this is a video that tells you how to add captions as another language. And then I'm going to also include a link. Oh, you know what? I just realized that my Amara link might link to something you can't see. Hold on. Let me just look up. It might just be amara.com. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. Let me see. Amara subtitling. Okay, it's amara.org, not com. All right. All right. Sorry, I just realized the link in my presentation for Amara might go to something that's in LACCD's ecosystem. So for captions in face-to-face classroom, my understanding is yes, that we're still required to have them. But you could check with your DSPS office. Okay, looking at Q&A. Can you talk about editing your own captions? Yes. Okay. So I will do that in just a moment. Great. Okay. I think we're all caught up. And for everything I'm sharing, you know, feel free to also talk to professionals on your campus because I don't think there's anyone in the world who has every aspect of this mastered. And part of the issue is that technology is constantly changing. So what's expected, and we're learning more about disabilities and things that cause issues for our students as time goes on. So the rules can sometimes be in flux about the very specific things. So it's always good to ask someone. All right, let's go ahead to captioning your own videos. Very important topic. Let me see how we're doing on time. Okay. All right. So before you start with making a video that you want to properly caption, be sure that you have all the tools you need. So for instance, are you going to film yourself? Are you going to film your computer screen, such as for a tutorial? This can be known as a screencast. Are you filming anyone else? If you are going to film a person with a camera, how will you control for lighting and sound? So in a moment, a little bit later, I'll tell you how to go back and fix videos you've already made. But for the moment, let's think about the future. You're going to make a video. You want to add captions. how can you make it easier on yourself moving forward? So one of the options is to create a script. Some people love this, some people hate it. I struggle with scripts because I find that I sound really stilted. I don't know what it is. I just am not good at delivering a script naturally. But some people are really, really good at it. When you work from a script, there's a couple advantages. It makes sure you stay on point. It keeps your video short and sweet. And you can upload your pre-written script into YouTube, which is going to make your captioning process much faster. So one thing you can do for a video you're about to make a script. So I'm going to briefly tell you how to do that. And then I'll share some tips for those of us who like to make on-the-spot extemporaneous videos. So for this training, I did 2 different videos, one with a script and one without, to demonstrate. And each of them is about one of my rescue dogs. So just so you understand why all the scripts talk about dogs. So I recommend putting each sentence on its own line when you're making a script. I mean, you don't have to do that originally when you're generating it or reading it unless you want to. But when you're about to upload, I recommend that. You can use any word processor. I use MS Word, but you could use a text file, you could use Pages, things like that. And then make sure that you save your script. If grammar and spelling are not your strong point, things like punctuation, capital letters, maybe run it through Grammarly, word spell check and grammar check. Make sure that everything's properly there. So this is a script that I used about my dog, Meg. It says, it's very simple. It just says, this is Meg. She is my other rescue dog. She is a mix, but she is predominantly the breeds of Jindo and Husky. She is always aware of her surroundings and likes to be the leader of her pack. So for this video, I wrote the script first. Then I actually recorded it. When you're recording a new video, really think about sound. So you want to enunciate as much as possible. This is because AI is listening to the sounds and trying to translate them. So the more you enunciate, the better, easier it is for the technology to find the right words. So to the extent that you can, and I know we all have different things going on, and some of us have accents and some of us might have other things, that's okay. But to the extent possible, enunciate. If you're a fast talker, and I know that I am, I have to remind myself to slow down. Try to talk more slowly. It will not only probably help your students who don't necessarily know about the topic you're about to talk about, but it also helps the AI that is listening to the sound afterwards and trying to translate it into words. And then also, to the extent possible, eliminate background noise, and also consider purchasing a better microphone if you find that the one you're using is not that great. There's a lot of microphones on the market for podcasters that run between $50 to $100. If you're someone who really likes video, making videos, and your audio is kind of just not going through that well, maybe consider a nicer microphone. This is from Michelle Pacansky-Brock's website. These are just a few tips for creating high quality video that she suggests. So when possible, use a light that's in front of you. Be aware of what's behind you. So you don't want like a closet that's open with all your clothes hanging. It could be distracting. Get a good microphone. Be real. You don't have to be a robot. It's okay to make a mistake or say, oops, that's my dog barking. It's okay. Just be real. It does get better. So it's really awkward and uncomfortable at first. The more you do it, the easier it gets, and try to keep it brief. This is not only because our students have shorter attention spans all the time, but also because it will be easier to caption if it's not, 2 hours long. So once you've created a video, you need a place to host it. That's where your videos are going to be stored. So you can load your video directly into your files in Canvas, but this may cause your page to load slowly. And it's also going to be potentially hard to caption. So many people instead are going to use a host for their video, an external host such as YouTube. These are a couple of the things that I like about YouTube, and it's why I use it for hosting, but there's other options as well. Anyone can create a YouTube account for free and store an unlimited number of videos. That's something I like. My district has Canvas Studio, but because it's paid, I'm always worried that one year they're going to stop paying for it. And then I'm going to have to worry about transferring all over my videos. That's why one of the reasons I prefer YouTube. YouTube offers a lot of editing tools, including a tool to fix auto-generated captions. And you can make your videos unlisted or private so that only people with the link, your students, can find it. But you don't have to choose YouTube. There's also choices like ScreenPal, Vimeo, 3C Media, and Canvas Studio. Okay. So I'll come back to the uploading your script in a minute. But when you're looking at your existing videos, here's a couple things to keep in mind. Make sure that you go back for older videos where you may not have known as much about accessibility and audit your content for caption quality. Both your content and maybe content you've pulled in from other sites like YouTube. As you're trying to remediate or fix videos, prioritize videos by viewership and impact. So it can be really overwhelming to look at your Canvas shell and go, oh no, I have 40 videos that are all not compliant. You might feel so overwhelmed you don't even want to start. But you should start, and you should start with the videos that you think are the most essential to students, the ones that really help them master those core objectives. And start with those, and then, work your way to the ones that students don't watch as much. And then make sure to update captions that are not compliant. You also really want to make smart captioning videos. Smart captioning decisions with existing videos. So sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, I have 20 90-minute Zooms. I need to caption all of them. And my point to them would be, do your students need that many hours of video about your class? Because sometimes people think, oh, well, I did a Zoom on this 2 years ago and I want everyone to see it. Okay, but do they need to see all 90 minutes, right? In your current online class that doesn't use Zoom? Do they need to see every Zoom you've ever done? And if you think about it, the answer is usually going to be no, right? So if you loved the way you presented a topic in a Zoom, pull out 4 to 5 minutes of it that really explained it and caption those. Or find someone on YouTube who's already talking about the topic and has proper captions. So don't sit there and go, okay, everything I've ever recorded, I should caption. No, choose the most important parts of the videos that really matter, trim them into shorter formats, and just caption those sections and put those sections in your class. Or if that's even too much, look for someone on YouTube saying something similar. Another thing that I'll just briefly touch on, because I know we're kind of like getting towards the end here, we have about 15 minutes left, is that there is something called the DECT grant, DECT, and it stands for Distance Education Captioning and Transcription Grant. And this can help with transcribing your videos. There can be a delay. So what you don't want to do is try to apply for the grant a week before that class starts. You want to think in the future, because it might take a couple months, about what videos you need captioned. And if you have a DSPNS office on your campus or a differently named office that supports students with disabilities, reach out to them and they should be able to help you apply. And then this is just a small note about best practices for using video on Canvas. At least the first couple of times you use embed a video, I recommend that you tell students that you have captions that they can turn on so they know it. This is not really necessarily only an accessibility thing, but it's a best practice is to provide some context to students about the video, about what you want them to do. So an example might be like, please watch and take notes on this 3-minute video about periods. And then the best way usually, because it means they don't have to leave Canvas, is to embed videos using the embed option in the rich content editor. And it looks like a little cloud with these little arrow guys superimposed on it. Okay, so let's go back to the idea of correcting your captions. So to sign into YouTube, because I'm going to tell you how to do it in YouTube in particular, you will need a Google account. So probably most of you have one, but if you don't, you can sign up for a free Google account. Then you're going to go to YouTube. You're going to click sign in, click create account, and then you choose who the account is for. So you can say for myself or to manage my business. Most of us would probably say for myself, unless you're trying to become like a YouTube educator star, and then maybe it would be your business. The steps are slightly different if you're on a mobile device or tablet. So it's pretty easy and it's definitely free to create a YouTube account. Once you've done that, you're going to create a YouTube channel. So once you're at YouTube, you should see your profile picture if you have one, or just like a circle. You click it and there's a drop down menu where you can say create a channel. You'll have to choose a channel name, whatever it is fine. Hit confirm. Once you've done that, then you can click on your profile picture again and choose YouTube Studio, which hopefully you can see in this image right here. Okay. Once you're on the YouTube Studio dashboard, there's a place where you can upload videos. So first you would click what this image on the left, it's a guy looking through a camera. You would click upload images, or sorry, videos, upload videos. And then over here, it'll open up the second image that's on the right where it says select files. So that's what you would do. So now we're assuming you've recorded the video on your phone, on your computer, and you have the file. You're going to go ahead and upload it to YouTube. You're going to choose a video name, whatever it is. You should indicate that it's not for children unless it is. I think most of us are not making content for true young children. And for subtitles, you can ignore that for now. And then for visibility, I usually choose unlisted. That means only people with a link can view it. Private makes it a little harder to get students into it, and public means everyone can see it. There is definitely a market out there for educators to create high quality videos that are captioned. So if you are someone who feels really comfortable, go ahead and make them public and see what happens. You could be the next YouTube educator. But if you're like me and you're like, oh, I don't really want to have my videos viewed by everyone under the sun, go ahead and choose unlisted. Once you upload a video, YouTube needs time to upload it. And it's also going to check for copyright violations. Usually that's music that you're not authorized to use. So this is an example of my dog, Meg. I just labeled it ASD. I just started typing letters as an example. So you could see when I uploaded my video of Meg, it said processing up to 4K, 19 minutes left. So I'm waiting for it to upload. Now it's uploaded. And let's talk about first how we can correct captions if you've used a script. So if you went ahead and before you did the video, you wrote a script, then you delivered the script in your video, this is how you would do it. Hopefully you're back at YouTube Studio. On that menu, you're going to choose subtitles. Hopefully you can see that in the picture. Once you hit subtitles, all your uploaded videos will appear. Click the video that you'd like to edit. Then you're going to need to click this blue button that says add language, and select language. For most of us, or probably all of us, that would be English, United States, unless you're teaching a foreign language, then you choose the language. Hopefully you can see this in the picture, but in this row that has languages, there is another heading that says subtitles, and next underneath subtitles are little dashes. If you hover over the dash, which is a little weird, but that's how it works, a pencil appears and there's a word that pops up that says add. So you're going to go ahead and click the pencil. And that is going to give you another list of options of what to do. Now, remember, I'm specifically telling you what to do with a script. We'll talk about the other option next. If you've already created a script and you've read the script as it is, all you need to do is choose auto sync. And what you're asking YouTube to do is take your audio, take your script, and sync them together to the best of its ability. So you click auto sync and you copy and paste in your script. Now, once you do that, you need to check and make sure it actually synced properly. So I have a screenshot here of my video with Meg. I uploaded my script, I had it sync, and then I hit play to make sure that it synced properly. If there were errors, you could go ahead and fix them in the box that says this is Meg. But if they did sync properly, and for me, it did, I was just able to hit publish. So syncing the transcript to video might require a few minutes depending on the length of your video. So if that's the case, it takes a little bit of time. YouTube redirects you to the video playlist. As soon as it's completed, your transcript will automatically be uploaded to your video. And just as a tip, avoid using transcripts for videos that have poor audio or are longer than an hour. It's just going to be really, really difficult for the AI to sync it. Okay, I know we're running out of time, so I want to make sure I get through this. How to fix auto-generated captions, which are also sometimes called auto captions. They do take YouTube time to generate. So keep in mind, you upload a video, auto-generated captions might take 15 minutes to an hour to generate. Similar to how we did it with the script, you're going to sign into YouTube Studio, select English, but this time you're going to look for English parentheses automatic captions. This will pop up if the captions have generated and are ready. So similar to last time, next to the language, English automated captions, there's usually a dash, and you're going to hover over it. A pencil pops up again, and the pencil will say duplicate and edit. So go ahead and click that pencil. Once you click the pencil, the auto-generated script is going to pop up for you. Then you can go in, you can make any corrections manually, add capital letters to the beginning of sentences, add periods to the end, look for words that are wrong. Then hit play so you can make sure it's all synced properly, and then you can hit publish. All right, I know we're running out of time, so one quick tip to speed up your captioning process, and then I'll look at the questions, and I know I need to allow a little time at the end for the survey. So I got this idea last summer from one of my English professors, Crozer, and I know a lot of people are doing it now, which is amazing. You can use a free version of ChatGPT to speed up your workflow. If you don't have ChatGPT, I encourage you to sign up for a free account. So ChatGPT can help correct your auto captions, but it may still make mistakes. You still have to review it, but it can help speed up your workflow. This is the prompt that I use personally. So in ChatGPT, I tell it, please act as my transcript editor and correct these auto-generated captions. Add missing capital letters to the beginning of sentences and proper nouns. And add ending punctuation to the end of sentences. If a word seems to be wrong, please fix it. Then I hit Shift plus Enter on my computer to start a new line, and I copy and paste in my auto captions. So I did that with a video for my other dog, who's a rescue dog, Flynn. I uploaded the video, I waited for the auto captions, and you can see on the screen the auto captions I got. So instantly you can tell they're auto-generated. A bunch of missing capital letters, no punctuation, right? So I put this into ChatGPT with my instructions that I read on the previous slide. And I say, act as my transcript editor, fix these. This is what ChatGPT gave me. And I was lucky, this was short. It actually didn't make any mistakes. If you're doing a long video, there will be mistakes, or if you're using complex vocabulary. So make sure you check what ChatGPT gives you and that you make any further corrections. But now you don't have to manually go in and fix every capital letter and add periods. I paste this new text back into YouTube. I test it by hitting play to make sure that everything looks correct, and then I publish. And that is how I speed up my workflow so that it's a little bit faster for publishing. So let me stop sharing here for a moment. I know we don't have much time. I'm so sorry. I want to make sure I give CVC at one time. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, great. I think most of these are comments about helping and versus questions. So I think we covered everything. So thank you so much. And I want to hand it back to Valerie and Brandon. And my apologies, by the way, if I missed anyone's Q&A or chat, but hopefully I was able to get to most of them.
All right, everybody. So thank you for attending the webinar and giving Karen your attention for this time. Also, a nod of appreciation to our signers and interpreters. That was a big boon for this webinar. So once again, please look to the chat for the survey link and complete it. You'll want to make sure that you click the button that allows you to receive a copy of your own responses, which can serve as a verification of your attendance. Now, if you experience any issues, please reach out to support@cbc.edu. Valerie will put that link into the chat as well for that. And while we are wrapping up our spring webinar series, we do have a couple of more, and we hope that you'll register for and attend the other webinars that we'll be offering. We'll drop a link into the chat to showcase not only our upcoming webinars, but it's also a page that has all of our previous webinars with recordings, slides, and captions, of course. So we look forward to seeing you at that webinar. And again, please complete that survey because that is going to dictate how we determine future programming. So if you liked a particular webinar presenter and we get a lot of positive feedback, we know to reach out to them and have them either do a repeat session or follow up to what they've done before. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you enjoy a wonderful weekend.